And God knows how that happened, but I think the answer, largely speaking, is decay. Because you cross 40 and people tell you that life begins at 40. It's a fucking lie. Right, look at me. The hair has gone, right? I was trying to focus reading the other day. The eyes are going. These things, I've got F8s. Can you believe that? You know, the old adage about, you know, too much wanking affects it. The eyesight, absolute no, it's deafness, believe me. It's a result of 35 years plus of self-abuse. I tell you, what would help? What would help is if I looked like James Bond. If I was Daniel Craig, that would help. And I am kind of like Daniel Craig with AIDS. Someone could Daniel Craig AIDS. That's me, that is. And God, what was it I told you all last time? Because somebody actually came up to me and said, "Oh, that was the funniest thing I've heard in years." You know, how did you make up that stuff? Make it up? He totally trashed my life. I couldn't believe it. Like, just for general information, right? About 10 years ago, I really did date a one-legged woman, and I really did take 3 dates to realise that she had one leg. It wasn't that she sort of turned up on the date hopping and I didn't notice. It was, you know, because people say to me, "Oh, you're the bloke you dated with a wooden leg." Wooden leg? There was no wood in it. The thing that she was using cost $5,000. It was a prosthetic. I may be making excuses here for my total lack of observation, but it looked pretty realistic. And it was only when we got down to it that I was undressing her, and oh my God, your leg's broken. That's a plaster cast. She said, "That is my leg." I'm like, "Well, what can you do? You can't go, So I went out with her for about 1.5 years, and it was all very good. You know, it was. I mean, a varied sex life. Oh, she'd hate me talking about this. She really would if she's somewhere in Bedford now. She'd bloody kill me. But plus, a varied sex life meant a leg on or a leg off. Because let me tell you, there is something weird about weight distribution when you take the leg off and you kind of like fold them over. An aircraft coming in to land only, you know, you've got one engine on fire. It's true. Well, I enjoyed it, and you know, that was kind of like, I had a sex life for a time, and before that, because people have asked me about this, I ended up dating a next door neighbour. Well, I say dating, we never actually went out on dates, it was just sex all the time, which for me at the time was, you know, great, actually getting sex, because I hadn't had much previously. But sort of 2 nights into sex and what have you, she gives me her views on prostitution. She said to me, "Have you ever had sex with a prostitute before?" And I said no, and she said, "Well, you have now." Now that's actually a bit of a lie, because when I promised myself I'll be honest with you, what she didn't actually say was, "You have now." What she actually said was, "Well, you have now." Because she considered me to be a bit of a prude. But then she went on to elaborate. She said, "Well, I'm surprised that I'm having sex with you, Steve. Not the thing any guy really wants to hear. I'm surprised I'm having sex with you. Oops, I made a mistake. I fell on your knob." But she told me, she said, "You know, that woman that comes round, the big woman that's staring daggers at you, and her name was Nick, and she was built like a rugby player. Well, she explained to me that I'm also sleeping with her as well." And she said, "Well, I normally prefer women." And I couldn't get my head around that. Do I look like I've got a set of tits? And she'd say, "Don't be juvenile." Juvenile, you know. "Yeah, don't be juvenile," or "Don't be a prude, Stephen." And "Don't be a prude." Yeah, I'm incredibly prudish. I just expect my girlfriend not to be a prostitute and maybe just stick to one sex if possible. But there you are. This makes it sound like I have sex all the time. I can tell you it's 5 years since I've had sex. really laughing at the front. Well, actually, yeah, coming up for August. August in Italy was the last time I had sex on a concrete slope, and she was pretty hammered. Now, I've always relied on the fact that, you know, if a girl can't actually be so hammered she can't pronounce the words "get off," then I'm fine. I'm on to a winner. In this particular instance, she was French, so she might have been telling me to get off. I can't speak barely a word of bloody French, so you know, that was my get out recently. And the other thing, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. Let's just call her sort of kid or something. She was telling me about a sexual encounter that she hadn't really wanted, and you know, and she said, well, I didn't fancy him, but I had sex with him. And I said, what? You know, why would you do that? And she said, oh, fish, come on. I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, alcohol. I said, really? And she said, yes, we'd had a bottle of rum, a bottle of wine, and 20 shots between us. And I said, well, come on, details. What type of rum? What type of wine? What type of shots? She said, you're going to use this in your comedy routine. I said, what? Now I'm going to use it in my personal life. Because, yes, I do sort of odd things because I'm a childminder, so I tend to be sort of, I do it usually after school, so I'm about during the day. And one day, well, that's not funny, I'm there. And one day, sort of Jehovah's Witnesses came knocking at the door. And it's such a sweet elderly couple. I thought, you know, people are horrible to them, you know, and tell them to fuck off and what have you. And I thought, well, why not be a bit different? Actually invite them in and talk to them about God and shit. Well, not God and shit, because that's like, you can't combine the two. Feces and Jehovah, it doesn't work. Odd kind of pizza or what have you. Anyway, they came in, and they've been back every week since. And they talked to me about sort of God and good behaviour, and I asked questions. I think I was asking questions this morning when they were saying, you know, God can't make a mistake. And I said, well, how come Adam went offline then? And they said, well, you know, because of free will. And I said, look, if we're all done for sin now and what have you, why didn't he just make Jesus first? So it was Jesus and Eve, and nothing would have gone wrong, and we wouldn't have sin and shit now, and we wouldn't all be punished with death, which is apparently what happens. I don't know, according to this manual they read from called the Bible. Anyway, I get on with them very well, and most weeks they come in, I give them a cup of tea, they talk to me, and it all goes fine. A couple of weeks back, Dorothy starts talking to me, and she said, have you heard about internet porn? And I said, well, I have heard of it, yes. And she said, well, do you realise 300,000 people a second worldwide access internet porn? I said, well, it's incredibly popular then. It obviously kind of serves a purpose. You can't diss it too much. And she said, no, Steve, she said, God doesn't want this. It's Satan's view of sex. It's appalling. I said, but come on. I said, you know, people disabled or what have you, they have needs. You've got to make allowances. She said, no. She said, you have to understand that watching internet porn is for socially inadequate, warped, deranged, sad people. And I said, okay, I get it, so you want me to stop? Well, what could you say? I mean, a couple of weeks back, I was out with my, I've got to tell you this story, there are a few sort of odd stories. I was out with a friend of mine, let's just call her Sarah, and she was she was absolutely hammered, and she said to me, fish, I want meat. That's my name, by the way, fish. Silly name, but it's my name. Anyway, she says, fish, I want meat. Oh, what do you mean you want meat? She goes, Kentucky, I want Kentucky. I said, all right, we'll get into a taxi and we'll go to the nearest KFC. So she gives me a $5. I go out and I get this bargain bucket thing, and this guy sort of sticks his head in the taxi window, and Sarah looks at him, and alcohol does stuff to you, and she says, "Fuck off, go away, I want nothing to do with you, you horrible, repulsive man." The guy, he's trying desperately to get a word in edgeways, and she's not having it. She says, "You're not talking to me, I want nothing to do with you, fuck off, you're out of my life, fuck off, go away, go away, go away." I said, "Sarah, you've got to talk to him." "I don't have to talk to him." "Fuck off." "No, you've got to talk to him." "No, I haven't." "Yes, you have." "No, I haven't." "Yes, you have." "Sarah, he's the taxi driver." Anyway, it got worse. We got to where we were going, and Sarah had been attacking this KFC like a savage animal and just hurling bits of chicken all over the shop because, you know, you're not too careful when you're pissed. And it was like a chicken holocaust by the time we arrived. The taxi driver sort of looks on the back seat and he looks at me and he says, "Look at what your fucking woman has done to my car." I said, "It's not my woman, I'm not responsible for her. I'm getting the blame here." And Sarah looks at him. She goes, "I don't like the tone of your voice." "I'm going to have you." I'm like, "No, you can't do that." I'm going around the waist. Just go, like we go inside. And there was just one weird incident. And I'm trying to think now. Is there anything else in the tank? Yes. I'm thinking.
Don't do
yes. Because everything I draw from is real. That's why there was a big pause. We're talking 1997. I'll finish on this. I think I was moving house, and
Steve?
Yeah.
I have a little request on the cheese and pickle sandwich.
Oh, the cheese and pickle sandwich. Oh, that as well. Oh, right, okay. Well, somebody earlier said that the blowjobs actually sort of don't count, so I suppose this wouldn't count. But at the time, I was a little bit mentally offline, and I was working at a homeless shelter, and I got accosted by someone, shall we say, who was, as it turns out, in fact, a prostitute. Well, I hope she was. I gave her 20 quid, so. Anyway, she took me somewhere. She took me somewhere sort of totally kind of derelict, and proceeded to give me a blowjob. And halfway through the blowjob, she gets extremely angry, and she looks up at me because these crumbs are bouncing off her head. She says, "What the fucking hell are you playing at?" And I was really embarrassed, and I had this cheese and pickle sandwich. I said, "Well, be fair." I said, "You're working, and this is my lunch break." Where was I? Yes, 1997. I was moving house. This is not everything I say is Willie based, by the way. I've got some kind of weird Willie obsession just because I've got a head like a cock. It's just the story just happens to be about this. Anyway, sort of 1997, and it makes it sound like I have sex. I genuinely tell you, I haven't had sex for 5 years due to a mixture of fine planning and incompetence. I fully admit to being incompetent with women. I don't understand them at all. And last time I was down here, Olivia, who heard the act, said, "Oh, incompetent." She said, "Very good, but why not tell people you're impotent?" I'm like, "Well, because I'm not." And then I thought about it. Well, I don't know. I've never been tested. I don't know if I've got Nat's piss or special brew down there. I really don't. And this worried me because I'm thinking it's suggesting that I lie for comedic purposes. Because I told you about this strange bisexual lady and the amputee. I mean, I didn't specifically go looking for an amputee. It wasn't like I didn't go looking for a publication, Amorous Amputees and Sizzling Stumps, or anything like that. It just happened. Anyway, where was I? I'm talking lost now. Anyone tell me what I was saying? No, before that.
1997.
1997, yes, exactly. Anyway, I was knocking off someone, well, that's a polite way to put it. She used to get very drunk on a lot of occasions, and as we've already established, alcohol helps, and she was a borderline alcoholic, so I used to have sex with her quite often, but she had a common law husband called Stan, and I used to keep out of his way. I mean, he did turn, seriously true story this, he did turn up at a party, sort of like you roughly call it up, it's just a set of people boozing and I was there, and he turned up with an axe at this party, and he said, is anyone here called Steve? Absolutely true story. At the time I had a lodger with me called Steve Hill, and he looked at him and absolutely shit himself, and he said, my name's Steve. I was straight out the fucking door. My brother, my sister-in-law with me, there was snow on the ground at the time, all three of us slipped on our asses the other way, because you don't want to hang around when a guy's got an axe and he's asking your name. You just don't want to do that. Anyway, so we've established this guy was a wee bit on the dangerous side. Anyway, I'm about to move house, and my dad has arrived before me, and he's always very, very helpful. And he said, oh, don't worry, Steve. He said, I recruited this nice guy across the road to help you out with the move. And it's him. And I'm looking at him, and I'm trying to hint to my dad. And my dad is one of these people who doesn't really get kids and what have you. He's a typical bloke, really. Women survive on gestures, hints, and they can read body language. All shit that us men are no good at. And I was starting to say, Dad, you don't want this. Why? He's all right. He's over there. He says he'll give you a hand. Just give him a few quid. Few quid, oh, it's going to cost me my life. Anyway, I thought I've got to just bluff this out and just kind of go with it. So we take the van to my house, and he helps me unload all this stuff, and he doesn't really say much. And I'm thinking I've got away with it, and the sense of relief. The sense of relief is comparable. What you really want to dump and it's that kind of relief. Anyway, we're on the way home in the van, and it's a bit silent, and suddenly he says to me, you all right? You are? And thanks for the money. And I said, yeah, not a problem, Stan, that's okay. He goes, just one thing. He says, there's been a rumour going round the village that you've been picking my missus. And I thought, oh my God, what do I do here? So I said, well, somebody's having a laugh at both our expenses, Stan. I said, because you're not to tell anyone. I said, I can't get it up. I said, it's rubbish. And he said, what do you mean you can't get it up? I said, well, what do you think I mean? I said, I could give me a couple of matchsticks and an elastic band as a splint, and it still wouldn't bloody work. Give it a couple of Nazi slaps, Schweinhund, work. I said, it's utterly useless. I said, just keep this quiet. But not only could I not endanger your wife, I couldn't endanger anybody's. I said, it's just useless. It's just there, and it's just like, if it was ice cream, it would be Mr. Softy. Do you get the point? And he kind of smiled, and he went away, and a week later I got a call from an ex-lodger of mine who was pissing himself on the phone, and he said, Stan is going round the whole of the 19th old pub saying, oh, you've all been saying that fish bloke was dicking my missus. He ain't, because he's told me he can't get it up. And they're all laughing, and he's laughing, but he don't really know why they're laughing. Okay, I think I've gone on for a fair bit. You've been brilliant, haven't you?